There's a belief in the United States that the wealth disparities between blacks and whites is tied to home ownership, but that's not really the case. Hello, good people. My name is Janice. I'm an attorney, educator, public speaker, and author of the companion book to this channel, Dignity, Human Rights in Daily Life, which is going to launch on Cyber Monday 2020. Thanks for stopping by. If you're new to this channel, welcome. After watching this video, I invite you to check out this playlist, and please consider subscribing. Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights reads, "Everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in association with others. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property." Even the Founding Fathers recognized the right to own property as a human right. In the Declaration of Independence, they wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal with unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The right to own property was part and parcel to the right to liberty. Only white men could own property, and only white men could vote, and thereby become involved with civic engagement. The Founding Fathers also recognized that taxation without representation was a violation of their economic freedom, and so established a republic that would protect their rights. This is evident in the eminent domain clause of the Fifth Amendment that bans the national government from taking property without just compensation. Note that at the drafting of the Declaration of Independence, property included people who were enslaved. After Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, the 14th Amendment provided formerly enslaved people with the rights of citizenship and equal protection under the law. Thus began the era of Reconstruction in American history. But let me take a step back. Enslaved people who fought on the side of the Union Army during the Civil War were called Buffalo Soldiers. They were promised 40 acres and a meal if the Union Army prevailed. I recall my great-grandmother telling me that her father fought in the Civil War as a Buffalo Soldier. He did get his 40 acres. She didn't mention anything about a mule, though. In any event, the government gradually took back the land as payment for taxes owed. More sophisticated freedmen used their skills as artisans to create affluent black communities. This had three advantages. They were economically upwardly mobile, their children had positive role models, and attended superior schools. This caused irony among poor whites who felt that because of the color of their skin, they should have all the advantages without putting in the hard work. I'll cite 8 examples. Raising successful children is no easy feat, which is why I created How to Teach Your Children to Think for Themselves. In this course, you're going to get the blueprint for teaching your 7 to 12-year-olds how to think critically using my 4-step process called the SICA method, which is derived from my experience as an educator, lawyer, and civic leader. During this process, you're going to be guiding your children into becoming critical thinkers and help them understand their place in society. You'll also assess where they are with their critical thinking skills in comparison to where they began. The link is in the description. 1873, Colfax, Louisiana. A group of well-to-do black men were peacefully assembled at a courthouse. Poor whites attacked them and destroyed their property. This led to a Supreme Court case called U.S. v. Cruikshank. The court erroneously decided that the Bill of Rights did not apply to private actors or to state governments, which undermined federal efforts to protect the civil rights of African Americans. This decision legitimized the Ku Klux Klan and set the stage for massive lynchings. 1898, Wilmington, North Carolina. Whites engaged in voter suppression by using terrorism against black voters in order to remove black elected officials from office. In 1905, Thomas Dixon wrote The Klansman, which romanticized KKK activity. In 1906, the Atlanta Massacre took place because whites believed that blacks were taking away their jobs. In 1915, D.W. Griffith directed Birth of a Nation, a movie based on The Klansman. 1919, Elaine, Arkansas. Blacks were massacred because sharecroppers tried to organize a union. 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Greenwood district was known as Black Wall Street. It was home to 3 black millionaires, several people with net worth in the 6 figures, and 6 residents who owned their own planes. Jealous poor whites felt they needed to put blacks back in their place, so they bombed the community with kerosene and nitroglycerin and burned the community to the ground. 1923, Rosewood, Florida. The catalyst for this massacre was standard fare. A white woman falsely accuses a black man of assaulting her, and in this case, the white woman was covering up her extramarital affair with a white man. Special prosecutors in the grand jury brought no indictments. Okay, so now we saw how the Supreme Court laid the foundation for creating economic disparities between blacks and whites. Now let's look at the legislature. Federal policy restricted whites from selling property to blacks in what's called restrictive covenants. Brokers and banks were complicit in the scheme by engaging in what is called redlining. The green areas on these maps were the new communities where one could get more funds and favorable rates. Blue areas were still desirable, and so one could get favorable rates if they purchased homes in that area. Yellow areas were declining communities, and they were always adjacent to the red zones. This is the area that was considered hazardous because they were the locations of immigrant and non-white communities. Initially, banks didn't even offer mortgages if you wanted to purchase a home in these locations. Eventually, they did offer mortgages at higher rates and for less funds. Lately, they've been engaging in predatory lending. With government-sanctioned interference with the ability of people of color to purchase homes, it was not unusual to find intergenerational home buying for purposes of economic stability and as a buffer against job discrimination. When one thinks about the right to own property, one thinks of a house as a home to live in, known as homestead property. However, this isn't really an asset because it's not putting money in your pocket. You're spending money to maintain that property with your mortgages and your taxes and the upkeep. Therefore, the kind of property that it takes to build wealth are items such as securities, businesses, and rental property. Therefore, to base wealth inequality based on home ownership is a false narrative. How should the United States address this form of systemic racism? Let me know in the comments. So, if you learned anything new in this video, write hashtag Team Dignity in the comments, like, share, subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, be well and remember to live your life with dignity. Bye-bye.